Hello and welcome to the second week of Waiting with the Dark, where we are waiting with, connecting with the ancestors. And we'll talk a little bit more about the different kinds of ancestors, but as we get going, I would like to say that I am in the Connecticut River Valley. So the ancestors on the land here are the Nipmuc and Pecumtuck Native peoples. It's their ancestral, traditional, unceded territory here. And they are the original ancestors of the land and here currently. And so welcome. We'll be talking about different kinds of ancestors. And I wanted to start off with just a few little orienting points. And then we will move into, I'll kind of lead you through the ritual, whether you're here live or watching afterwards. And so if you're working with a candle wheel, you might want to have that handy. If you're working with tarot cards, you might want to have those handy. Anything you can kind of adapt to just be reflection. If you did work through emails during the week and have cards of your ancestors that were appearing during the week, you should feel free to have those out too. I think that's the logistical piece. Then I have kind of just 3 orienting points to highlight about working with the ancestors for today. So the first one, I'm starting with the tarot teaching. The tarot teaching is that death comes in the middle. I have here the death card from the Dark Goddess Tarot by Ellen Lorenzi Prince, which is a guide overall for a descent and return of the light. And it is card number 13 in a sequence of 22. So death comes in the middle of the sequence of the tarot. And I think it says something to us about how death is in our life, or as we relate to death. As we know, when we talk about tarot, we're pulling up the death card. We're so often saying it's not physical death, it's about transition. But of course, one of the greatest transitions we can go through is the physical death. And that what comes afterwards, I like who can say for certain and in detail what it is, but my experience, and I think the experience of people who've been involved with these retreats, are that there is something beyond the body. We might call it the soul, and that lasts beyond death. And so death comes in the middle. Point number 2, so death comes in the middle, there's the soul, there's something we can communicate with, that communication and connection happens. It happens between the worlds, between life and death. And it is possible. It's perhaps a different kind of language. We speak differently, we listen differently, but communication and connection is possible. I talk a lot about it as being a loving flow, and how do we tend a loving flow between the living and the dead. And we continue in relationship. Physical death does not end relationships. So those we knew in life, they become our beloved dead, which I think of as the most recent dead, or the dead that we knew personally. And then that connects us back to the ancestors, who are the dead we may know through family stories, we may have some connection to, but then also go back through our lineages, go back through our connections, go back through the, Perdita Finn talks about the circles and circles of mothers and grandmothers that surround us as ancestors, and we can be communication with them. And this is actually the norm, even though in our modern society, or I'm from the United States, so that's like what I know, it seems like an odd thing to do, a woo-woo thing to do, but it is a very ancient practice to be connecting with the dead, and it is more of the norm. And for my other visual today, I have pulled out, this is the ancestor from the Minoan Tarot, also by Ellen, which I had selected to have here to make this point. This is from ancient Minoan times. And this is, the small figure is the living person bringing a cup, bringing an offering, to the large person, which is the ancestor. And this is a figure from at least about 4,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago. So we have been doing this throughout time. And we can reclaim that as something that brings us a beautiful connection of continuity, of strength. And it is something that I think is, this time of year is very much, particularly in the Northeast where I am, or the Northern Hemisphere, where the natural world that's so full of life and green has receded. Now we have bare branches where I am. And that clears a way for us to be connecting, beyond life into death. And it's the time of year with the holidays where we tell stories. We tell stories of our beloveds and our family members who have died. So I think this is that time where we make a turn, like nature supports us, and we respond to nature by going and connecting with our beloved dead and the ancestors. Point three, well, and then I'm going to talk about the kinds of ancestors. Point three is that you don't have to work with all your ancestors. Sometimes, or your beloved dead, your family dead. Sometimes there is a healing work or transformation that needs to happen with those who are in the beyond. And it's not our job, or we can't cure those who are dead. They are with the greater than, working on them. So this could be a whole course on talking about the ancestors and how to work with them. But because this week of working, waiting with the dark, this week that we do, the invitation is really to connect with those where you're already in kind of a heart flow, because working with those ancestors, you love them and they love you back, and being in the flow can really support you at this time of year. And it may be an entryway to be doing other kinds of work with ancestors or your beloved dead who need healing. So that is possible too. As you went through the week, if you were doing the daily emails, you got introduced to different kinds of ancestors, because you can work with the genetic ancestors, obviously. And I'm using some titles that I have from Christopher Penczak, who's a teacher in the Wiccan tradition and has these very beautiful ways of naming our ancestors. The ancestors of flesh and blood are our genetic kin, which are what we obviously think of as ancestors from our mother, from our father, whether we knew them or not. There's a genetic connection, and we can work with those ancestors going back. If they're difficult, this week of connecting with the ancestors, you don't have to be working with them now. You can be working with other kinds of ancestors. And in fact, the ancestors of milk and honey is just a beautiful way of describing our adopted kin, which this could be literally like if you were adopted or someone in your family line is adopted, like my father's adopted. So the grandparents I knew they're my ancestors of milk and honey. It can also be families that you perhaps marry into, or are beautiful created families that are love makes a family. So those are the ancestors of milk and honey that they pass on. Ancestors of the bone are the land kin, the people who lived in the land recently, anciently, those that are buried there are the ancestors of the land. Ancestors of breath and bread. These are the story kin. And these are those you have a similar passion or vocation. These are your story kin. And these could be the ancestors where you really feel that loving flow and where you're turning to because you need support and help. This week I worked with a writing ancestor. Ancestors of spirit and soul. These are path kin. These can be in a similar religious or spiritual tradition. These could be the saints or the revered teachers, the writers that come down to us from your tradition maybe that you were born into, or one that you have turned to learn about. And these could be also our tarot deck creators, like Pamela Coleman Smith, who is the artist of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. We can think of them here. And also to remember, not all the ancestors have to be human. These, I'm spending a lot of time with the human ancestors, but all the animals and beings and trees and plants that have gone into the land, that make the house I live in is made of wood. These are ancestors too. So we can be broad and expansive in thinking about who our ancestors are, so that we can send out and receive back love and be in a loving flow. And I'm quoting Rachel Pollack because that's where I've heard it. I've heard others say it too. You know, the idea of what you love loves you back, and you get into this loop of love and expansion of love. So that's the invitation. And this is our week where we work with 3 candles. We have a 4-candle wreath, and we light our 4 candles. I'm going to lead you through that in a moment. And then we blow one out. And that becomes the gateway through which the ancestors can enter. And if you pulled cards, you have them out, maybe by your candle wreath. If you haven't, what I'm going to walk you through is the lighting and maybe working with 3 ancestors to match the 3 candles. So that's where we're going toward. So you may want to have your wreath, maybe have matches, have deck, cards ready. And I'm just going to shut off my overhead light to kind of be in the atmosphere. I think it's not too dark. Okay. First, I invite you to tune in a little bit to your body. Drop down into your body. You are in the living body. We are in the living bodies. That's our gift for now. You might want to close your eyes to help you go inward. Let's just take a few breaths together. Let out any air you have in your lungs. And open up to receive a big, nourishing breath. And let it go. And as you're letting go, you're letting your body settle. And you're taking in another breath. Letting the air of life fill your lungs, and then you release. And settle a little deeper. And then a final breath in. Feel that nurturing air going throughout your whole body. And when you're ready, let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Settle down deep. You might bring your attention to your feet, to your seat, and feel where you were supported by a chair, by the floor, and below that, down into the earth. That earth offering up support. When you take in a next in-breath, it might be almost as if you are breathing up that supportive earth energy into your body. Let it rise up through your legs. Arrive at your belly. Feel the support of the earth relax your belly. And the earth energy keeps traveling up your spine until it arrives at the heart. That earth energy, that supportive energy, holds your heart. Feel how they meet. Allow your heart to be supported by the earth. And then you might bring your attention up above you. Sky above you. Maybe you're connecting to moon or stars or sun, some celestial light, maybe beyond clouds, there above, coming down. Rays or sparkles, little streamers of light coming down and surrounding you. Falling down around your head, your torso, down over your legs, down to the very earth. When you take a breath in, you're breathing in that light. It's coming in to your lungs and lifting your heart. The air that we breathe that gives us life, infused with the celestial light, is expanding and opening up your heart. You might imagine or sense or trust that your heart is expanding, grounded by earth, activated by breath in the sky. Your heart is moving out. It's energy flowing out from you. Maybe you get a hint of it as a color, or have some sense of it energetically. Do you know it's expanding out around you? It's creating a circle of love around you. This is your circle. You get to invite whoever you want into your circle. You invite those ancestors who will enter in love. You're invited to kind of tip your head down. Maybe your palms are out in front of you. You kind of half open your eyes and you're looking at your hands, keeping a soft gaze. Moving with your hands to take up your matches. You're working with a candle wreath. And light all 4 of your candles. Lighting all 4 of your candles, taking a moment to kind of gaze on your candle wreath that's real or imagined. You might imagine that your circle of love is spreading out to include the space of the candle wreath. You just do a little candle gazing, a little being with your open heart and your illuminated candle wreath. When you're ready, you're invited to blow out one of the candles. And as you blow it out, make an invitation to your ancestors to enter. Feel free to call on any specific ancestors to enter in to be with you. The smoke from the candle is like smoke that's coming and calling the ancestors. Doorway is open for them to enter. And if you haven't already, if you haven't pulled cards during the week, you might think about one or two or three kinds of ancestors that you'd like to invite to send you a message. Could be ones I've described or one that kind of comes to mind. If you have more than 3 ancestor cards out, you might want to just turn them so you can't see what they are. And we're going to put one ancestor message by each candle. So you're invited to kind of look at your first candle and either right now for a first time, pull a card to get a message from an ancestor. Or if you have many cards, pull one, see which one is important to come up now by your first candle. And take a moment just to gaze on it. Then you are invited to move to the second candle, if you'd like to, if you're ready. And pull now a card to be a message from an ancestor, or pull one of your cards you worked with during the week and lay it out. Be connected to the second candle. And finally, this third candle, either now or working with cards from the week, pull a card that is a message from your ancestors. Been looking at each card individually that's come. Now look at them as a set. There's some resonance, some overlap in the messages coming from the ancestors. Or perhaps it's a variety of message coming. It's a full spectrum message. Now you're invited to close your eyes. Having looked individually, looked together, connect yourself back into that place in your heart that's supported by the earth and expanded by the celestial lights and the breath. Tuning into that place, open to a message, a summary, a word, a line, a feeling coming to you. Accept whatever it is. It seems strange. That's fine. Give you something to ponder. We receive this message. You're invited to give a word of thanks to your ancestors for bringing you this message. We'll close our circle work for tonight. The reminder that you can always go back to more candle gazing or spend more time if you're doing this on your own later. We're going to close with a prayer of thanksgiving to the ancestors. And this is a little bit adapted from a Christian origin, but adapted from the prayer book, God Has No Religion. With thankfulness in our hearts for the wise ancestors of all ages, for those who in times of darkness kept the lamp of wisdom burning, for the great souls who saw visions of larger truth and dared to declare it, for the multitude of quiet and gracious souls whose presence has been one with the world's sacredness, and for those known and loved by us who have passed from this early fellowship into the realms beyond. We are grateful. We offer thanks. Just before we move on, I invite you to kind of be in your body again. You've been floating out there. Maybe you want to put your hands on your head. Feel your body placed with the celestial lights. Oh, and I have a visitor ladybug. Okay. Celestial light, pat it into your body. You're going to keep it in your body for moving forward through the week. Maybe move your feet up and down. Feel how the feet can be lifted from earth, moving you forward in your own body, and still keep that connection to the groundedness of earth. So that is our time with the ancestors, a little bit of ritual for you. I hope that it supports you, maybe supports you to modify and do some of your own things. We start the week, that's called Dark Nurture, tomorrow, Monday, and we are here Sundays, a group of us live, and then some listening later. And I thank you all. And if you're here live, we will stay on and have our sharing circle. Travel well in the dark.